Here to talk about it with me for a few minutes is Alastair Campbell, former Director of Communications for Tony Blair. Good afternoon to you. Thanks for coming in again. You wrote about meeting the Princess of Wales, the late Princess of Wales, when she was trying to carve a different kind of relationship as a royal or a former royal. But she was never really a former royal, was she? She just remained a royal in people's minds.
Well, possibly in people's minds, but I mean...
But the reality wasn't that.
Yeah, it's very, very different. I think once you're out, you're out. And... No, when we were in opposition, and you're right, not for fairly obvious reasons, I recorded this in some detail at the time. She was very keen to kind of forge a different sort of profile, role, whatever you want to call it. And obviously at that stage had been through the divorce. And I think this is very, very different because this is a situation where Harry and Meghan... They've clearly made a choice. They've clearly thought about that choice. I think it's pretty extraordinary. It seems they haven't really discussed it in any great detail with other members of the royal household.
Or if they have, they've preempted any decision.
They've certainly taken it. Yeah. Now, whether that was because, I mean, I wonder. I don't know, but I wonder whether they worried that if they started to get into negotiation on some of the things they're now going to have to negotiate, whether they were worried they'd get talked into actually not doing it, or I don't know. But what I think will happen now, I mean, if the motivation, which I get to some extent, if the motivation is to kind of have a different sort of life, not have to deal with the media in the way that they do now, I'm not sure that's going to be the outcome of this. I think they've actually made themselves a more interesting, particularly to the hostile media.
Hostage to fortune.
A little bit. And I think that, you know, the other time I've written about the monarchy was I wrote a book about winners and the Queen, who, I mean, I'm not a natural monarchist at all, but I wrote a chapter about the Queen as a kind of enduring British winner and how she had come through so many difficult periods. And this is a difficult period. I don't actually think it does compare with the really bad times of when all
doesn't feel to me a lot like it does.
No, I think not for her and not for the monarchy as an institution. I think there was a time. I think the whole Annus Horribilis and Diana's death, and also the Windsor fire, which I know one of the Queen's people told me was her lowest point of all, because it came on top of so much else. Yeah. But I think this is it is difficult. I think where I get a sense of where they're coming from, I do think it's not a question of them wanting necessarily a kind of sycophantic press, which of course in the certain periods of history in certain countries now other royal families get. I think it's more the sense that they feel they don't get any kind of fairness. And I think there is a lot of malice towards them. Individual journalists, individual papers, lots and lots on social media.
And yet, things like his work with Invictus, with veterans more generally,
he gets an amazing profile.
The mental health stuff, which we'll talk about, because I know you've spoken to both him and William about that. The media, the sort of formal royal correspondent end of things, has been very supportive of that, it seems to me, as have we, as has the BBC.
It reminds me a little bit of this. I keep hearing from some of Jeremy Corbyn's people that, you know, he's had the worst and the most tough character assassination of any Labour leader. They all get it. They all get it. And likewise in the royal family, I think, look, is the media less deferential than it used to be? Of course it is. Yes, there's no doubt about that. But have Meghan and Harry been treated, as it were, particularly worse? I'm not sure they have, and certainly I think I get the thing about Harry and his mum. I think both William and Harry, if you had to say to them, analyse all the reasons why your mum is dead and who killed her, I think they would put the media top of the list. In fact, I know they do, and I think so that's quite a hard thing to deal with. But actually, they've dealt with it well, and I think that Harry, you're right about Harry. He's had an amazing profile. The Invictus thing's been brilliant.
I mean, it was pioneering stuff.
And when, I mean, Fiona, my partner, she and I did a film for their Heads Together campaign, which was William, Harry, and Kate. And you know, that's the only time I've really had any kind of serious engagement with them, and I got a real sense of them being very close and very plugged into it, and doing it for the right reasons and understanding it.
And it would be a shame to lose all of that.
I hope they don't lose all that. But when I saw, I was doing Jeremy Vine's TV programme this morning, and he was sort of going through the things that they might do, and he was talking about, you know, paid speaking engagements and merchandising and all that. And I thought, oh my God, is that where this is going to go? Because if it is, I think that's a pretty dangerous territory for them to enter into.
Well, if it is, they can't then be working royals, can they?
I don't think so. I think this third way idea.
There's barely a second way, is there? Let alone a third way.
I think there is a second way, and funny enough, I think that one of the reasons why the Queen is in such a kind of strong position as the Queen, and why her own profile globally is so powerful and so kind of revered in the way that it is.
She's called the Queen. There are other queens, but she's the Queen.
Yeah. And I think the thing with the Queen is that there came a point that I wrote about this based upon conversations I had with people inside the kind of royal household. There came a point where they made a very deliberate decision to focus very much on, if you like, the main people. Queen and Prince Philip before he stepped back, Charles, William, Charles and Camilla, William and Kate, and to some extent Harry. And that was kind of how it was seen. And all the others, Anne got on and did her stuff. Andrew went on and did his stuff.
When you say to some extent, is that because up until relatively recently, Harry was almost kind of a beloved add-on to William, that we just couldn't
He was very much
separate
seen
them
as
off.
the two brothers, yeah. And at one point, the two brothers plus Kate, when they were doing the mental health stuff together.
He called her the sister I never had, didn't he?
Yeah, and then I think, and I don't know whether this is about Meghan herself, but I think then the fact of William's marriage, and something has happened since then. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I think that the public, it's been really interesting just sort of listening to some of the stuff today and seeing some of the reaction on social media. Like everything in our world at the moment, it's kind of, well, are you for or are you against? And the nuance gets lost. I think people feel very sorry for them to some extent. But I do think that I saw that a clip of that Tom Bradby interview that Meghan did, where she said when her friends said, "Are you sure about this? The press or the tabloids will go for you and what have you," and she said, "Well, why would they? Because did she know nothing about what happened to his mum and the way that the British tabloid press is?"
There was naivety there, wasn't there?
Well, I think it was deliberate.
In a revealing radio conversation, Alastair Campbell unpacked the complex dynamics of the British royal family, drawing from his intimate political connections and historical insights. Reflecting on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's controversial departure from senior royal duties, Campbell offered nuanced commentary that blended political acumen with personal understanding. He recalled parallels with Princess Diana's own struggles, sharing an insider's perspective on how Diana had previously approached him and Tony Blair to candidly discuss her challenging position within the royal institution. Campbell's analysis suggested that the Sussexes' decision was not merely a personal choice, but a profound statement about institutional expectations and individual agency within the monarchy's rigid structures, echoing the earlier rebellions and strategic communications that Diana herself had masterfully navigated during her tenure as a royal. Royal, drama Harry, Meghan, and the palace's internal struggles. In a candid exchange on LBC Radio, political strategist Alastair Campbell joined Sheila Fogarty to dissect the seismic royal upheaval surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's unprecedented decision to step back from senior royal duties. Drawing from his unique insider perspective, Campbell offered nuanced insights into the complex family dynamics that precipitated the Sussex couple's dramatic departure, echoing parallels with previous royal controversies. His commentary, informed by years of high-level political communication experience, provided a rare glimpse into the intricate power structures within the British royal institution, highlighting how personal narratives often clash with historical expectations of royal protocol and public representation. The royal confidant, Diana's strategic political engagement. In the late 1990s, Princess Diana strategically sought to redefine her public persona by directly engaging with key political figures, Alastair Campbell and Tony Blair. Recognizing the power of political communication and media influence, she initiated conversations about expanding her role beyond traditional royal expectations. Diana was acutely aware that her potential for meaningful public service extended far beyond ceremonial duties, and she viewed Campbell and Blair as crucial allies in reshaping her narrative and impact. Her discussions with them were calculated and purposeful, reflecting her desire to leverage her global popularity to address humanitarian causes and societal issues that were close to her heart, while simultaneously seeking a more autonomous and influential position within the complex landscape of the British royal institution. Royal rupture: Harry and Meghan's bombshell departure. The seismic decision by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to step back from senior royal duties sent tremors through the British monarchy, triggering an unprecedented public and media maelstrom that exposed deep fissures within the royal institution. The implications were immediate and far-reaching. The traditional centuries-old hierarchical structure of the royal family suddenly appeared fragile, with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's unprecedented move challenging long-established protocols and unwritten rules of royal engagement. Media coverage was relentless and polarizing, with British tabloids launching scathing critiques, while international press oscillated between sympathy for the couple's desire for personal autonomy and criticism of what was perceived as a dramatic, potentially destabilizing break from royal tradition. Public reaction was equally complex, with segments of the population expressing support for Harry and Meghan's quest for independence, while others viewed their departure as a betrayal of royal duty and an embarrassing departure from the stoic, dutiful royal persona epitomized by previous generations. Royal dynamics inside the Sussex departure and Diana's legacy. Alastair Campbell's intricate understanding of political and royal communications offered a nuanced perspective on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's unprecedented step back from senior royal duties. Drawing from his extensive experience in crisis management and media relations, Campbell dissected the complex internal dynamics of the royal household, highlighting the unprecedented nature of such a public departure. His insights, informed by years of close observation and personal interactions with royal figures like Princess Diana, revealed the delicate balance between institutional expectations and individual agency. Campbell noted that the decision reflected not just personal choice, but a deeper systemic tension within the monarchy, where traditional protocols clash with contemporary aspirations for personal autonomy and self-determination. The British monarchy, navigating modern challenges and public expectations. As the British royal family confronts unprecedented scrutiny in the 21st century, their traditional role has been dramatically reshaped by shifting societal dynamics and heightened public expectations. No longer can the monarchy rely on historical deference and ceremonial mystique. Instead, they must continuously adapt to a more transparent, egalitarian landscape where their relevance is constantly questioned. The emergence of high-profile disruptions, exemplified by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's controversial departure from senior royal duties, underscores the deep tensions between centuries-old institutional traditions and contemporary social demands. These challenges extend beyond individual personalities, representing a broader systemic pressure for the royal family to demonstrate genuine purpose, accountability, and meaningful engagement with a diverse, increasingly critical public that expects more than symbolic leadership. The transformative journey of the modern royal family. Meghan Markle's arrival in the British royal family represented far more than a mere matrimonial union. She became a catalyst for profound institutional transformation. Where traditional royal protocols had long dictated a rigid, almost impenetrable approach to public engagement, Markle introduced a refreshingly contemporary perspective that simultaneously challenged and energized the centuries-old establishment. Her mixed-race heritage, professional background in entertainment, and distinctly American sensibilities created an unprecedented disruption to the monarchy's historically homogeneous landscape. The tensions arising from her approach were palpable, as her progressive attitudes and desire for more transparent, emotionally authentic interactions clashed with the royal family's deeply entrenched customs of emotional restraint and carefully managed public personas. This cultural collision exposed the inherent generational and philosophical gaps within the institution, ultimately forcing a reckoning with outdated practices and signaling the potential for a more inclusive, adaptable monarchy in the 21st century. The royal fallout, Prince Harry's quest for privacy and family protection. Prince Harry's departure from senior royal duties was fundamentally rooted in a profound desire to shield his wife and children from the relentless media scrutiny that had haunted his own childhood. particularly in the wake of his mother, Princess Diana's tragic experiences. Having witnessed firsthand the destructive power of invasive tabloid journalism and paparazzi intrusion, Harry was determined to create a sanctuary of privacy and normalcy for Meghan and their young family, a protection he felt was critically absent during his own upbringing within the royal ecosystem. The intense spotlight that had persistently tracked his mother's every move and ultimately contributed to her devastating death remained a visceral trauma that drove his protective instincts, compelling him to make the unprecedented choice of stepping back from royal responsibilities to forge a more autonomous and sheltered life path for his loved ones. The royal family's evolving landscape tradition meets modern transformation. The British royal family stands at a critical crossroads, poised between centuries-old tradition and the inexorable winds of contemporary social change. As younger generations like Prince Harry and Meghan have dramatically demonstrated, the institution must now navigate complex pressures of public scrutiny, personal autonomy, and global media dynamics. Speculation abounds regarding how the monarchy will adapt. Will future royals continue to adhere to rigid protocols, or will they progressively redefine their roles to remain relevant in a rapidly shifting cultural landscape? The potential transformations extend beyond individual choices, suggesting a broader recalibration of the royal institution's purpose and public perception. With Prince Charles's eventual accession and Prince William's eventual leadership, the family appears to be strategically positioning itself for a more transparent, accessible era, one that balances constitutional duty with individual expression and progressive values. The royal rupture, media monarchy, and the personal cost of public scrutiny. Campbell's reflections on the Harry and Meghan saga reveal a deeply nuanced understanding of the complex machinery of royal public relations and media interaction. Having witnessed similar dynamics during Diana's era, he recognizes the profound psychological toll that relentless public scrutiny can exact on individuals trapped within the royal institution's rigid hierarchical structure. The broader implications extend far beyond this single family's narrative, highlighting systemic issues of institutional control, media manipulation, and the increasingly precarious balance between personal autonomy and public expectation. What emerges is not just a story about one couple's choice to step back, but a powerful commentary on the inherent tensions between traditional institutional power and individual agency in the modern media landscape.